My name is Jason Carter. I'm from a small town in Nebraska, where being different meant being wrong. And in my house, if you didn't follow their plan, you were trash. Useless, a joke. Let me take you back to the moment everything changed. Not when I made it, but when I showed up to prove it. You're an embarrassment to this family, Jason. My father's voice echoed across the parking lot like a gunshot. His face was red, veins popping at the temple. Look at you. You're wearing some stupid t-shirt, no job, no direction, still chasing that business dream like a fool. I clenched my fists, not because I was scared, but because I was trying not to punch the same man who raised me. You don't get to show up here, at your sister's wedding, and act like you belong. What did you even bring? Some handmade card from Dollar Tree. He barked again, turning to the guests who were now frozen in awkward silence. I brought respect, I said quietly. Something you never gave me. He stepped forward, inches from my face. Respect. You haven't earned a penny in your life. You left college, remember, you threw away your future. I stepped back, not from fear, but from restraint. My heart was pounding, but I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. Then my mother chimed in, her voice sharp like a dagger. You're just trying to ruin her day, Jason, like you always ruin everything. Can't you just admit you failed and move on? That word hit hard. Failed. They'd used it my whole life like a collar. Like I was some stray they regretted feeding. And they said it louder every time I didn't conform to their plan. Go to college, get a degree in something boring, marry someone they liked, and live life like a checklist. But I wasn't made for checklists. I was made for impact. I didn't come here to fight, I said, breathing hard. But you're not gonna talk to me like I'm nothing, not today. Then leave, my dad snapped. Go crawl back to your little basement business or whatever fantasy you're still clinging to. I don't live in a basement, I said calmly, eyes steady. I live in a penthouse. There was a pause. They laughed, literally laughed in my face. Yeah, sure, my mother rolled her eyes. You and your imaginary millions. No, I said, pulling something out of my jacket. It was a black lanyard with gold trim. A diamond-shaped badge gleamed from the center. One word. CEO. They froze. That's when the limo pulled up, and when the door opened, out stepped 2 security guards, followed by the vice president of my company, the same man who used to be my boss, until I bought the company we both worked for. Now, he worked for me. Let me tell you how we got to this moment, because when I was 16, my parents told me I'd never amount to anything. When I was 20, they kicked me out for dropping out of college. When I was 23, they told the whole town I was a loser playing business on my laptop. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't just playing. I was building every night, while they slept peacefully in their judgments. I was learning, coding, failing and learning. Again, I turned $87 into a small e-commerce startup. I sold it, did it again. Eventually. I wasn't chasing success. I was becoming it. So no, I didn't show up at that wedding for revenge. I showed up to reclaim my name, to remind them that you don't have to be approved to be powerful. That a dreamer with grit is more dangerous than a genius with no heart. And when my father tried to speak again, I looked him dead in the eye. You called me a failure, I said, but today, I'm the one who signs paychecks. I walked in here alone, but I didn't come empty-handed. Then I turned to my little sister. The bride, the only one who ever believed in me. I bought you and your husband a honeymoon suite in Santorini, first class, 2 weeks. My gift, because you believed, even when they didn't. And that's when the silence hit the loudest. My mother's face went pale. My father's fists unclenched. And suddenly, all that screaming, all that judgment, it shrank, because nothing silences doubt louder than proof. So to every kid who's ever been told you're not enough, I see you. To every dreamer who gets laughed at dinner tables or shouted at in parking lots, don't quit, because one day, you won't need to explain yourself. Your success will do it for you. If you've ever been doubted, disrespected, or dismissed, this story is for you. Tag someone who needs to hear this. Share it with a dreamer who's still in the grind. And never forget this. Your past is not your prison, it's your power. After the wedding, after the badge, the limo, and the stunned silence, I sat in that car and stared out the window. Not because I was proud, but because I remembered everything it took to get there. C. People think success is about the money, the office, the title, but before the limo, before the company, before anyone clapped, there was a night I almost gave up. I was 22, broke, alone, and sleeping on a mattress that was halfway deflated. My phone was cracked. My laptop was overheating every 10 minutes. And my bank account. It said $3.94. That night, my power got cut off. I sat in the dark with nothing but my thoughts and a candle I stole from a birthday cake the week before. And just when I thought things couldn't get worse, the door opened. My dad walked in. He didn't ask how I was. Didn't look around at the mess. He tossed a letter on the floor and crossed his arms. I had your mail, forwarded. Don't want your crap showing up at our house. I picked up the envelope. It was a rejection letter. Another one. Let me guess. He scoffed. Another one of your genius startups crashed? Asterisk, I didn't answer. I didn't have the strength. Asterisk, you could have had a real job by now, a real future, a wife, a house. You chose this. This pathetic loser life. Asterisk, my throat was tight. I didn't look at him. I just stared at the envelope. Then he dropped the final blow. You're not my son anymore. You're just some kid with a dream and a death wish. And he left. No hug, no hope, just cold footsteps on a wooden floor. Asterisk, I cried that night. Yeah, I did. But not because I was weak. Because I was tired of being told I was. Asterisk, tired of begging to be seen. Tired of trying to earn love by following someone else's rules. So I made a promise to myself right there. Sitting on the edge of that broken mattress. Asterisk, if no one believes in me, I'll believe in myself loud enough to make the whole world hear it. The next morning, I pawned the only thing I had left that was worth anything. My grandfather's watch. Asterisk, I used that $120 to buy a second-hand MacBook from a college student who was switching to PC, and I started again. No Wi-Fi. I sat outside. A Starbucks. Asterisk, no money for software. I learned the free versions. Asterisk, no one to help. I taught myself. Asterisk, and day by day, minute by minute, I built the thing that would change my life. I called it Vis, a tiny web tool to help small businesses automate email. Everyone laughed at it. Asterisk, my old friends said, that's already been done. Asterisk, my parents said, focus on getting a real job. But one day, a bakery in Oregon used it. Then a bookstore in Colorado. Then a music studio in Atlanta. Within 6 months, I was profitable. Within a year, I was being courted by investors. And by year 2, asterisk, I turned VisionNest into a multi-platform ecosystem, and I became the youngest CEO in my sector. Asterisk, but I never told my parents. I didn't need to. I was waiting for the right moment, not for revenge, but for truth. Asterisk, because no matter how loud they shouted, I was louder in silence. I tell you all this because I know what it feels like to be the joke in your own family. Asterisk, to be the one they roll their eyes at, the one they call a waste of potential. Asterisk, to sit at family dinners and hear them brag about your siblings, but never mention you. But I also know what it feels like to build something they can't ignore, to rise without their approval. Asterisk, 2. Succeed so loudly, they have to sit in their own silence. So if you're there right now, asterisk, on the floor, in the dark, asterisk, looking at your dreams like they're impossible, don't quit, because one day, the people who doubted you the most, asterisk, will be the same ones adjusting their tone when they say your name. I didn't wake up one day and become a CEO. No confetti, no cameras, no fairy godmother turning my life around. Asterisk, it was more like a slow burn. Asterisk, like lighting a fire with wet wood. You keep striking, keep hoping, and then one day, a single flame catches. Asterisk, for me, that flame came from a bakery in Oregon. Her name was Liza. Asterisk, owner of Sweet Bloom, a tiny cupcake shop barely surviving the pandemic. Asterisk, I had cold emailed her, not with a pitch, just help. Asterisk, told her I was working on a new email automation platform. Told her I'd run her next 3 campaigns for free. She didn't respond for a week. Then, one evening, I got a reply. Asterisk, I've got nothing left to lose. If you can help, you're in. Asterisk, I stayed up the entire night redesigning her email templates, segmenting her customer base, writing custom subject lines. By morning, I had a small dashboard live. She launched her campaign that afternoon. Asterisk, by the end of the week, she messaged me again. Asterisk, we made more in 3 days than we did all of last month. That one message changed everything. Asterisk, because once she started talking, others started listening. Asterisk, I had 5 new clients by the end of the month. All word of mouth. Asterisk, but here's what nobody sees. I still couldn't afford new clothes. I was still eating instant noodles twice a day. Asterisk, still sitting on the same floor, using boxers as a desk. Asterisk, but my clients, they were growing. And that meant I was growing. Asterisk, the money trickled in. Not fast, but steady. Asterisk, I reinvested every dollar. Didn't buy new shoes. Didn't party. Didn't even upgrade my laptop. I upgraded my product. I took every call. Listened to every complaint. Asterisk, I wasn't building a company. I was building credibility. Asterisk, and just when I started thinking, maybe I'm on the right track, the world tested me again. It was a big client, a music studio in Atlanta. Asterisk, they promised exposure, monthly pay, and long-term partnership. Asterisk, I worked on their campaign for 2 weeks straight, did everything they asked. Asterisk, and then, they ghosted me. Asterisk, blocked my number. Never paid. Asterisk, I lost $1,200 in work and my confidence with it. Asterisk, I remember sitting on my shower floor that night, fully clothed, water running cold. Asterisk, thinking, why do I keep getting hit the hardest when I'm finally standing up? But then I remembered something. The only difference between people who win and people who quit is one more try. So I got up, wrote a new outreach script, built a pricing model, and for the first time, I stopped working for exposure and started demanding value. Month 4, I was making $5,000 month. Month 6, I hired my first part-time developer. Month 9, I got my first angel investor. The night I signed that deal, I sat in my tiny studio apartment, held the check in my hand, and whispered to myself, they were wrong about me. But even then, I never called my parents. Not when I got my office, not when I hired my 10th employee, not even when I crossed my first $1 million. Because I didn't need their validation, I just wanted peace, and peace didn't come from I told you so, it came from knowing that the kid they called a disappointment was now making payroll for 50 families. I kept grinding, kept building. I didn't flaunt it, I didn't flex, I stayed quiet, until the wedding invitation came, when I opened it and saw my name printed in silver. Something in me shifted. My little sister had always defended me. Even when our parents yelled, she'd slip food into my room, lend me her headphones, text me, I believe in you, after every failure. She was the only one who loved me without conditions. So I booked the limo, wore the badge, walked into that venue not to prove them wrong, but to show her what belief had built. And when they screamed in that parking lot, and the past came rushing back. I remembered every cold dinner, every silent ride, every time they looked through me like I was air. But now, they had to look up. This is where the story starts turning. The rise wasn't sudden, it was slow, lonely, and brutal. But if you're in that stage right now, building something no one claps for, keep going, because every seed looks dead before it grows. Every underdog looks crazy before they win, and when you rise humbly, but unapologetically. A week after the wedding, I went back. Not for revenge. Not to wave the badge around again, but because I needed to stand in the place where it all started. One last time, and breathe differently. Their house hadn't changed. Same. Peeling white fence, same porch light flickering like it always did. But me. I was unrecognizable. I pulled up in a black SUV. No driver this time. Just me. Alone. And as I stood on their front step, staring at the door I used to get kicked out of, I felt steady. Not angry. Not broken. Just ready. I knocked once. My mom opened it. She froze. Didn't smile. Didn't invite me in. Just stared. Eyes scanning me like she was trying to figure out if I was real. You came back, she said quietly. Did silence, then I heard his voice. My dad. From the hallway, Jason. It was the first time he'd said my name in years, without sarcasm attached to it. He walked into view, slower than I remembered. Older, grayer, but still proud. Still hard. He looked at me, then at the keys in my hand. Then at the watch on my wrist, the same one I'd once pawned and quietly bought back after I made it. Why are you here? He asked. Arms crossed. I stepped forward, not to intimidate but to close the space that had been empty between us for too long. I came to say this face to face, I said, because no amount of money changes what you did. But I refuse to carry your voice in my head any longer. My mother shifted uncomfortably. You didn't have to show off at the wedding, she muttered. You embarrassed us. No, I said calmly. You embarrassed yourselves. I didn't show off. I showed up. I turned to my father. All my life, you called me a failure. Not once did you ask me what I dreamed about. Not once did you ask how I was holding up. I could have been dying in my apartment, and you'd have sent a bill for the funeral. You think we didn't care, he snapped, voice rising. We gave you everything. A roof, clothes, school. You gave me expectations, I said, and when I didn't fit them, you withdrew love like it was a paycheck I hadn't earned. There it was. The silence, the kind that follows truth. My father sat down. Suddenly, tired. He looked at the floor, like it had answers he never could find. I didn't know how to raise someone like you. He whispered, you weren't like your cousins, or your sister. You were wild, and wild scared me. That hit me harder than all the yelling ever did. Because that was the real reason, wasn't it? They weren't angry. They were afraid. Afraid I'd fall and make them look bad. Afraid of explaining a child who didn't color inside the lines. Afraid I wouldn't become them. I didn't need you to understand me. I said softly, I just needed you to stand with me. My mom was crying now. Quiet, restrained sobs behind shaking hands. My dad looked up, his eyes red. I was wrong, he said, voice raw. You didn't fail. I did. I didn't say anything, because in that moment I didn't need an apology. I needed release. I forgive you. I said, not because they deserved it, but because I did. I was tired of carrying their doubts on my shoulders. I built something great, but the greatest thing I ever built was the courage to walk in here and not need your approval anymore. Asterisk, they nodded, not in pride, but in pain. Asterisk, the kind of pain that only comes when you realize you were the villain in your own child's story. I left soon after, didn't stay for dinner, didn't take pictures, just walked out the same way I walked in, but lighter, because healing isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's just the quiet click of a door closing behind you and not breaking down when it does. So to anyone waiting for their parents to say, I'm proud of you, I see you. Asterisk. To anyone who built their own wings after being told to stay grounded, I hear you. Your story doesn't start with their permission, and it doesn't end with their apology. Asterisk, sometimes, the best thing you'll ever do is show up anyway. Asterisk, you know, the funny thing about success is it gets loud. People start calling. Old classmates show up in your inbox like they never laughed. Asterisk, cousins you haven't seen in years. Suddenly so proud. Asterisk, but the only voices I listen to now are the ones still whispering in the dark, the ones still sitting in their childhood bedrooms, wondering if they'll ever be enough, because I've been there. And no kid deserves to stay there alone. That's why I built the Nest Initiative. Asterisk, a startup incubator, not for Ivy League grads or trust fund kids, asterisk, but for the ones with cracked screens, no business cards, and a dream that makes their families roll their eyes. Every month, I choose 5 underdog founders. No resume, no degrees, just raw hunger. Asterisk, I give them mentorship, tools, and funding, no strings attached. Asterisk, because I don't want a percentage of their business. Asterisk, I want a percentage of their freedom. One of my first mentees, a 19-year-old named Marcus from Detroit, lived with his grandma, worked nights at a gas station, spent his off hours designing mobile games on an old Android phone. Asterisk, people told him to get real, told him no one wanted to hire a hood kid with cartoons. Now, he owns a gaming studio that just signed a deal with a major app distributor. And when he called me after his first 6-figure check, he cried. Not because of the money, but because someone finally believed in him. And isn't that all most of us want? Not handouts, not applause, just a chance. Someone to say, hey, I see something in you, even if no one else does. That's what I'm trying to be now. Not the richest, not the loudest. Just the first believer in someone else's story. A few months ago, I went back to my old high school. Asterisk, they asked me to speak at Career Day, the same stage where a guidance counselor once told me I wasn't university material. Asterisk, I looked out at those kids' eyes, glazed over, scrolling their phones, tuned out like I once was, and I said this: greater than some of you will grow up in homes that only cheer when you play safe. Asterisk, some of you will chase dreams, your own families will laugh at, but listen to me, you don't owe anyone your smallness. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Asterisk, don't wait to be chosen. Choose yourself. The room went still, and I realized this wasn't about me anymore. My story started with rejection. Asterisk, it was fueled by anger, but it lives now in purpose. I don't carry resentment in my chest anymore. I carry blueprints for kids who are building without instructions. Asterisk, for people like you who've been underestimated so long, you forgot how to see your own worth. So here's my final truth. Asterisk, they called me a failure. They kicked me out. They laughed. Asterisk, but I kept going. Asterisk, and the same door they slammed in my face, I built my own, bigger, stronger, wide open, for anyone who needs it. Asterisk, if you've ever been called a disappointment, this is your sign. Asterisk, you are not broken. You are becoming. Tag a dreamer who needs this reminder. Send it to someone grinding in silence, because their story isn't over. It's just heating up. Asterisk, and one day, asterisk, they'll step out of their own limo, with their own badge, on their own terms. Asterisk, and every voice that called them a failure will fall silent. Asterisk, because success speaks loudest when you let it walk in first.